We have a new guest in the studio. He's an entrepreneur, he's a mentor, and he's a newly minted politician from Elgeyo Marakwet County, Tim KIPCHUMBA. Before we welcome him, let him hear the day's proverb from Mozambique.
Yes, from Mozambique. Mm-hmm. Do not try to fight a lion if you are not one yourself.
Do not try to fight a lion if you're not one yourself. From the people of Mozambique.
From the people of Mozambique.
You said the president's called who? Nyusi.
It's called Filipe Nyusi.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You didn't get a suite yourself.
I didn't want a suite.
I offered.
I was actually offered a suite.
But yeah, Tim peremende tafadhali.
And I declined.
But yeah, Tim peremende. Tim to
And why is that?
He's sweet enough already. I will go to the comments section. I read a comment there. Just go to the comment section. Scroll down a little bit. Just a little bit. There. Ada
White Lovelace.
there says, I've been missing your sweet sayings.
Sweetie Muga. Do you see now, Tim? You understand? He doesn't feel he needs to add to the overflowing fountain.
Sweet sayings.
Sweetness.
Let me just say I'm lost for words.
That's usually what happens when they flatter you.
Yes. I blush and then I get confused. Then I'm looking for words and I can't find any.
Tim, you should have been here on Friday.
What happened this Friday?
Wait,
He was sweet looking.
This guy.
Tim,
Is it the fashion or what?
what is happening right now, Tim, is you are in the company of some youthful individuals who don't respect the elders. It's being demonstrated by these unwanted and unsolicited comments that they keep making. On that subject, I'm not lost for words.
You have very many things to say.
Yes.
Tim KIPCHUMBA, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Happy New Year, man.
Thank you for having me, Eric.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good to have you on the show again.
This side of life.
This side of life. Let's start with that proverb. Do not do what with the lion if you're not what?
Do not try to fight a lion if you're not one yourself.
Yeah. You're a lion, man. You went and fought.
No, I think
Kukaenda vile kulienda. That's what people say. Kukaenda vile kulienda. Tim KIPCHUMBA was running for senator of Elgeyo Marakwet County. He emerged as a runner-up after a spirited fight. So first was a nomination exercise for the UDA ticket, and then you went in now for the Kinyang'anyiro itself. Lessons from the field. This was your first time bringing your passion into politics, into wanting to lead in politics. You went and you had very many meetings. From the moment you thought, it's likely that KIPCHUMBA Murkomen is going to join the cabinet, and therefore this seat is going to be vacant. You started having conversations with people and just listening to the ground. Take us through that. I mean, when you were listening to the ground, what were you hearing people say?
I think the resounding must have been a little over 400 meetings, Eric. 400 meetings, whether it's in rallies, whether it's in night meetings, whether it's in coffee, not coffee really, tea type of meetings, whether it's in small groups where you're planning, a little over 400, maybe more. But I think what is really resounding, I mean, across the county, there are separate conversations were happening. Elgeyo Marakwet County happens to have the second largest forest cover. And so, now we have the new Forest Act, which says, for you to take animals to the forest, you need to pay something small. It doesn't make sense at all to the people of Elgeyo Marakwet because they feel like they're taking care of the forest.
They've been in this forest forever.
Ideally, getting pieces of wood or allowing the cows to go in shouldn't be paid for. In other parts like Mbobut, you have problems like titling, adjudication of titles, because for a very long time, land has not been adjudicated. There is no titles, so you can't really do much with your land. For the Olo Valley, whether it's from Kocholwo all the way to Endo, peace is resounding, and then water. If people could just get peace and water, they may never even need money, or rather, they may never even need anything else. So if they get peace, water, and roads,
that's it.
I mean, you might not as well have existed as Team KIPCHUMBA. If you talk about Leland, Kaviego, and all those places, you're looking at, what can we do to improve potato, whether it's seed variety. That is also true for, Kabiemit or parts where people are just worried about, can we secure good produce can we secure market for our potatoes? Can we secure, and then I think what was common across the whole county is just opportunities for young people, which was actually the premise for my campaign. Like,
what is their translation for opportunities for young people? What do they mean?
In many cases, majority of people want a job. Majority of people. I mean, let's be honest. People would really like to get a break. They finished school. They've been at home for the last 8 years. They got a second class upper in college. Yes, they've been applying jobs here and there. Some of them are probably teachers. Yesterday, for instance, in Tambaj is one of the ward. Originally, my mom came from Tambaj. Tambaj, they are only recruiting 4 teachers, but they are at 500 to 600 people come for just those 4 jobs.
500 to 600
all of
people
them
are qualified teachers.
All of them, not just qualified, and have been waiting, some of them for as long as 10 years. Some people are about to retire before they get a break to get a job. But that's true for the whole country. I mean, it's really that. It's everyone is hungry for opportunity. And I think that's partly what inspired my race, is to say, could we expand opportunity by using legislation? Could government become a better servant of its own people by putting capital in the places where it's required, putting capital where it can spur innovation. It's really interesting, because if you look at, say, the country that is leading now in terms of number of startups that are listing in NASDAQ, apart from United States, is Israel. Little known, tiny country. But when you trace back and ask yourself why, it's traced it to some of the tribulations that Israel had. They couldn't go to places. They had to build this aviation industry. But eventually, the only reason they are number one is in receiving venture capital globally right now per capita. The amount of total capital, venture capital that goes to a country per capita is Israel, is because of the amount of money they themselves put in research and development. But that has a value, because the highest amount of one of the leading job creators is technology. For every one job created for technology, it's a software engineer, or programming, or an engineer, you create 5 more jobs. And they have a name for that in Nairobi. They call them tech bro, tech sis. So when you see the tech bros, they probably earn something like 1 million shillings. But if they earn 1 million shillings, they pay their babas better. They pay their waitress better. They actually go to the dentist and check their teeth, so they can afford to actually go to the doctor. They create an additional 5 jobs.
They do manicures and pedicures.
But then that's the role of government, is that government can actually do something about expanding opportunity for its young people. So I think that's, I mean, I learn many things, but overall, I think it's just that everyone is hustling.
Sure.
And they want their life to be better.
I don't think it would be a useless venture to say how then you would have seen this happen had you been given the opportunity. It's not, because I think, just like you said, everything is a lesson. And so even for folks who maybe didn't grasp, how would it have happened? You being a senator of EMC.
No, to be honest, I'm grateful for the people of Elgeyo Marakwet County. I'm truly, truly grateful. In the first round, I got 26,000, close to 27,000 votes. I only lost narrowly by 1,400 votes. And the UDA nominations had its own challenges, and everyone knows that, including the UDA and the president. The second round, I only lost narrowly by about 3,000 votes. We got more than 38,150 votes. I look at those votes.
You got 38,000?
150.
Those are very many votes.
And I don't look at them as votes. I look at them as prayers, as hopes, as aspirations. And so even when I finished and I lost, and it was a painful loss for me and my supporters, I still went around to just say thank you. Because there's nothing they could not have done. The people of Elgeyo Marakwet County already did everything they could have done.
Yeah.
And so, what would I have done? That's a really interesting conversation. Interesting conversation. I mean, I think the first one is, for a very long time, Elgeyo Marakwet County has been marginalized. So one of the things I would have done a little bit is work with, this Kenya Kwanza government to expand the amount of money that goes, because right now they probably get about 700, 800 million more that they can put into development, probably expanded by at least the same amount. The other one, of course, is to push for peace, which is already, there are some things that are already happening. Just a week ago, actually, a day to the election, the government hired 400 national police reservists. And I thank Honorable Kindiki, but there are more things that can be done. Criminalizing cattle rustling and banditry, criminalizing it and making it even an act of terrorism. Because we've had more.
Are you saying massacres. It's not criminal?
Right now it's not. So
cattle rustling
it's criminal, but you can't really take someone to.
You can't charge them with cattle rustling.
Yes, you have to charge them. Yeah, you have to charge them for theft, which is crazy because if you have 300 people massacred in the name of cattle rustling, it's no longer really.
It's not theft.
Cattle rustling. It's more almost like terrorism. It's not even almost. It is an act of terrorist activity. I mean, 2 weeks ago, Amze called Daniel and lost 2 of their babies, Form 3 and Class 8. They were gonna become candidates Form 4 and this year, and they were just killed. They were taking care of firewood and they were shot dead, and then he lost how many cattle? 77 cattle. He had paid school fees for all his kids throughout the years. Like that's a possibility. Like that's someone like that who's just lost 2 daughters, has lost 77 cows. That's all his livelihood. Like that's a lot of millions worth of value apart from the lives of his children. Now he has to deal with the loss of his children, and he has to deal with
loss of
livelihood. The loss of all his livelihood, actually, because you'll have more than 3-4 more babies. Suddenly, you don't even know what to look forward to, and then he's lost hope. And so but also now to look also at legislation to compensate people like that. Post-election victims have been compensated, but none of those massacres have been compensated. And government has a responsibility. The primary responsibility of government is to protect lives and protect property. So at least even when in the past, when the government has been unable to at least look toward the possibility of compensating some of those. I mean, there are widows. There are widows. There are people without limbs. There are people without arms. That you meet them, and their life will never be the same again. And it's not to their fault. You may not fault government completely, but at least it's government's responsibility to take care of human life and property. So aside peace is to look at the existing legislation that were already there, but organize it. So Local Content Act as possibility to create jobs, Eric and Du and Mugabe. Why? Because if you create a project like Aurora and Kimwarer Dam, ideally you want a significant portion of those jobs
to come from the locals.
At least 50%. That is a draft bill. It's not yet an act of parliament. That has real possibility, because if you spar FLOSPA, which was at its height, it was generating 4 billion Kenya shillings, which is almost what the county is receiving right now. A portion of that, just a small tiny portion of that, will go to the county, but then a significant portion of that will create local jobs. Whether it's a mango factory that is in Tot, whether it's in improving the seed variety for potatoes, because we are the number one leading potato producer in the country, number 1, number 2, including Elgeyo Marakwet County as one of the, one of the counties that can take advantage of, potato produce and marketing bill, opportunities that can just at least expand incomes for farmers and jobs for young people. And more, honestly, forest is down the Senate route. Looking at the possibility of saying, if we have the second largest forest cover in the country, how can forest be a resource for our people? Whether it's introducing a variation of shamba system, whether it's having community groups that can harvest forest sustainably. Can forest, for instance,
or
be
climate
given
financing through your resource?
Yeah, mitigation, yes.
Or even influencing other parts of the country to emulate.
Exactly. So that forest actually starts to become valuable thing. So if you are giving licenses to people to harvest forest, you consider first locals, and even the way you do that, you do it in a more sustainable way. Allow people to do animal husbandry, especially because most of the time, right now, a lot of change has happened. Simple things like pushing really hard with the National Land Commission together with the Ministry of Lands to make sure that people can get just titles. Like that's all they just want. Like they just want titles because it unlocks the potential for their property.
Just listening to you, Tim, you hear there's Elgeyo Marakwet is everything. It comes from, yes.
The valley. Yeah.
The valley itself, which has huge potential for livestock production and for crop production. There's the highland, which has all this potential.
Potatoes, yes.
There's the forests. And yet, if you look at what you're hearing from the people are just sitting and they're thinking, we just need an opportunity. They don't want a handout. They just want to be facilitated to do what they do, to using the resources that they have to make their life better. This story is replicated across the country.
Absolutely.
Now, what is it that is missing because all politicians go and they listen to the people and they hear that. And all politicians, I'm sure, at that point, they're thinking, actually, yes, if I actually go into parliament, I can push one or two buttons to unlock the potential that these people have. Where is that missing link? What makes it not work from your observation, having now straddled both sides?
I don't know if I know the other side. I don't know if I truly know the other side. But if it's anything to go by, I see the president truly committed. The president is demanding of his cabinet secretaries to deliver the manifesto. They are going down to the manifesto. They are having tough conversations about what is possible. What is possible with the little money that we have in government? What can we do? They are shaving waste. I don't honestly think that it's possible to want... I just don't think... I think it's immoral to want to ask for public office and not want to follow through for the... I don't get it. I certainly know that politics is now different. The process of getting into office and then sustaining that office may not necessarily require necessarily for you to develop. But I think what we saw, what at least I saw in the movement of young people, particularly that course, because we had a course called Kite Site, which was its time. I had a 26-year-old young lady send me 100,000 shillings for my campaign.
What?
Outside from my county. I had 19-year-olds organize and mobilize groups of young people. So I think the wave of the politics is also changing, as it were. And I think that actually gives me a lot of hope. Is that people, it's no longer... I don't even think of it as politics. In fact, they don't even think of me as a politician. They think of me as someone that went out to understand what is it that they wanted from a legislator like myself or from a young leader like myself. And then they organized themselves and they actually believed that it's possible for us, for our lives to be meaningfully different. So I think that the politicians of the future will also change. Even I am surprised. I'm surprised that I think the politicians of the future will change because more young people are now engaged.
Tim, can I ask you a question? Now that you're a fully fledged card-carrying politician, okay, with a
Card
member.
carrying.
Yes, card carrying. And fully paid up. Yani politician kabisa. There's no reverse gear here.
But I'm not a politician.
Oh, yes,
Died
you
in
are.
the womb.
I'm not. I'm not anymore a politician.
You see, no,
I've never been.
Actually, the reason why I'm saying this, someone who genuinely believes that they can get involved as a change agent in the process of actually bettering the lives of their people.
Yes.
You may not think so, but you're a politician. It's just that the word politician in this country has such a negative connotation. One doesn't really want to be associated with it. But that having been said...
It's true. It's true. I'm a politician. I asked for political office. So
yes, that having
an
been
elective
said,
office.
what do you think would be the cumulative effect of a focus on the county and what can be done within the counties and the resources within the counties in changing people's lives? See, the focus tends to be on the national government, and it should be, because money comes from there. But money also does get to the county level. We've always had a debate here as to this money that they receive. We're always being told it's not enough, but we're never told what it actually does. Because if I look at every year without fail, the number of counties that are right in the eye of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission,
They are significant.
they are significant, which means that money goes anywhere and everywhere except where it should go. So, the focus on the money that the county gets. Because all these problems we're talking about, these young people belong to counties, all of them.
No, but to be fair, you know, the counties receive less than 500 billion Kenya shillings. The majority of the money is with
Tim,
national
that
government.
money is a lot.
I know it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But one of the most successful development innovation that Kenya has pioneered is CDF and Devolution. So we should be thankful. The level of development that we have seen in the counties in the last 10 years was not possible in the last 20, 30 years.
It is true, Tim.
So there is craft, but for that we need to strengthen the rule of law. We need to strengthen the court system. We need to empower judiciary. We are now getting courts in every county, so that will help.
Tim, you know what I'm saying? I am saying that many of our counties, if they didn't have a big town like Eldoret, Kisumu, Kakamega, Nairobi, Mombasa within its boundaries, were essentially marginalized. And so far behind that even when a very little bit was done, you shouted to the heavens and felt, hey, a wonderful thing is being done. So you didn't question what else could be done with the money that was actually available. Yes, the progress that has been made seems significant because nothing was being done for the longest
We're moving
time.
from zero to...
Precisely. I am asking the second tier question. Okay, we've got it. Things are being done. I'm asking, is that all that could be done with the
No,
money?
absolutely not. Yes. Absolutely not. I think that counties should be thought of as engines of development. So in the 70s and in the 80s in Elgeyo Marakwet counties, our parents grew up in their parents were selling pyrethrum. You never asked anyone for money.
No, you didn't.
Pyrethrum was a cash crop. You actually had a salary. Coffee, I grew up in Sambirir. We were a coffee zone. You earned a living if you just sold a number of kilos of coffee.
Yes.
I think the county should be thought more, should be looked at not more like recipients of money from national government, but potentially engines of growth. And there is real power there. I mean, the Aror, unfortunately, and Kimwarer dams were significantly delayed, but the possibility. The developmental
I love your
possibility.
choice of
No,
words.
you, my man, you are the
This is now
quintessential diplomat.
Fully paid up.
Yes.
This is it, Tim.
But it's true. They were significantly delayed.
No, he's right. He's
Of
right.
course they were.
He's right. Please carry
The
on.
potential.
I'm just saying. No, so if you put in irrigation schemes in Aror, in Soy South, in Endo and Imbabut, I mean, those places, the temperature is fantastic. And there are even crops that we have not even that we have not even explored there. But sugarcane, for instance, is one of the crop that would do very, very, very well in those arid, warm carrier sites. And the particular type of variety of sugarcane that has been found to do well there generates double the sucrose content. Okay, so instead of 8%, it's 15% sucrose content. And the number 2 takes half the time to actually grow. So you bring peas, you bring water, you bring sugarcane, you bring mangoes. We are a net exporter as a country. Right now, we are a net importer of sugar as a country. Right now, we are a net importer of fruit. We are a net importer, even
of everything.
Almost everything, even meat.
So the only thing we're a net exporter of is human resource. Yes. But please go on, Tim.
So imagine putting money there, whether it's in fertilizers, whether it's in peace, whether it's in infrastructure. Even as a country, we can export. We can significantly export sugar again. Like right now, and that requires legislation. That requires champion. So I agree with you. Counties should not be a net recipient of money. At the end of the day, if Elgeyo Marakwet County receives 4 billion. They should say, okay, fine, 3 billion goes into salaries, half a billion goes into maintenance. Okay, we only have half a billion now. Because that's the problem, that they have legacy problems. Is that counties end up inheriting legacy challenges. So the county councils are already hired people. It's a very difficult conversation to fire people, even if it's the right thing. You can't.
Let's take a break.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
Citi, we interrupted you in the middle of asking a question.
The Tim mentioned the amount that the county he comes from, the great county he comes from, the amount that they receive as part of
exchequer.
Yes, disbursement for that county. Now, and then talks about the legacy problem. I want you to consider the possibility that the problem may not be what we think the problem is. In this sense, yes, there was a local authority. Yes, the people work for the local authority. But that isn't the problem. That's a symptom. You have money and you feel that the way in which you can grow your county is by employing more people. Instead of thinking of that money as you would a startup. You see where I'm going with this one. This is 4 billion that we are getting.
What else can we do to multiply?
Yes, and even these people who are employed, what can we get them to do beyond just feeling that they are employed and they require salary? What can they do to even justify what we are paying them beyond saying, I am an employee?
Absolutely.
It's a thinking issue. That is the problem. The way to rethink a situation and to refocus whatever resources you have. That, in my view, is the problem.
That's true.
Yes.
No, I agree with you. Government has a role. I mean, can you imagine a small city like Shenzhen 30 years ago was just a fishing village. Today, Shenzhen grows so drastically. It's twice the size of Nairobi, and exports.
You name it.
I don't know. I mean, it's one of the few cities. But the reason it changed so much, and the reason it's one of the few cities that now exports more than 25 million containers out of China. So that's 1 container per second. It's because of government. Government made a decision in China that they want to name 7 cities on the east coast of China as special economic zones. So they designated those ones as special economic zones, and they said our strategy is to export. In 1979, that heralded a new China. But it also heralded a new America, because after 1979, manufacturing in America fell significantly and has never recovered. But China has always been on the boom because of the strategic decision that government made to say, you know what, we want this city, we want these 7 cities to become export hubs for the rest of the world. We want to be the factory of the world. And so they created, by design, they created those 7 cities to become leaders in export. But it's the same thing. So Kenya Kwanza, the president is saying, I want to use aggregate, I want to use fertilizer, I want to use these inputs. So government has a role that it can play. And I agree with you, counties should be thought of as engines of growth. And I must congratulate my governor. I mean, he's now doing a cash crop award, saying, you know what, this ward is very good with pyrethrum, let's do something about that. This what needs this intervention, this what needs intervention. And hopefully, in another 3-4 years, each one of those farmers from my wards potentially gets to earn a living just from cash crop. And subsequently, the county also makes money, and then subsequently, people's lives are actually better just from the little money that the counties are getting. So I do agree with you that we do need to look at startups. There's nothing stopping Nairobi right now from making a similar decision, because it matters where you live globally. And Nairobi could become like a brain hub. It can become the place where it can house startups in Africa. The laws in Nairobi can be created in such a way that we can be the company, the city that pulls all the capital. If we did that, last year, Africa got $5 trillion, more than $5 billion last year. If we attracted a significant chunk of that, more engineers and more technology companies can be founded in Nairobi. But then because of that, more companies can also come to Nairobi because of the ecosystem.
Tim, they're already doing that. Some big brand names on the planet have already chosen Nairobi as the regional hub, where previously you heard of South Africa. We are hearing Nairobi, which means what you're saying has been seen by people whose business is global and they've understood it.
But
Now,
we could do more. So
no,
financial
not more,
innovation.
Infinitely more.
Yeah.
Infinitely more, because the opportunity not only has presented itself, it has beckoned and it keeps beckoning. Now, the government ought to, and the government must, and the government should. Again, my thinking is, when the government doesn't, and yet we have a second tier called the county government.
What should it do?
Yes, this is what I'm saying, because some of the efforts that we are saying, yes, the government acts and does what it's supposed to do, provides the opportunity. Do we jump into that opportunity and then move along with it?
You know, as I hear you, like that example that you've given, Deng Xiaoping comes into power in China and he has this vision and he starts the vision, but he's also just building on the block of a party that had been created, and this huge monstrosity of a party, his government, that then ensure that there is continuity, whether it's Deng Xiaoping who's in office or the next president. And I was just asking myself, do we have a problem then with the way we run our politics and the way we do it? Kibaki comes in, he has this idea, but it seems like it's a Kibaki idea. The next person who comes in has to start from
We'll
somewhere
abandon
else.
those, yeah.
What William Ruto is talking about now, yes, he's coming up with the ideas and building blocks for his ideas. When he leaves office, is that going to be sustained? Or will somebody else come and now take a whole different direction? Actually, no, this other guy was doing hides and skins in Naivasha. Forget about hides and skins in Naivasha. I want to focus on cashew nuts, don't know where. How do we ensure that there is sustainability? There was an attempt by having the Vision 2030. That document is just a document.
No. To be fair, even the current president, our president, has been focused on Big Four.
Yeah.
If you look at this continuation of the projects he's launched in Kisumu, the projects that digital fiber, all those are continuation of
It's a
Vision
Big Four.
24.
Yeah.
And then they are all part of Big Four agenda. I think the only thing that the president has now done that is unique is saying, let's focus on the hustlers. Let's put more money at the base of the pyramid as a basis for a more stable form of prosperity. Instead of having a trickle down, let's not do mega projects alone. Let's also put money in places where ordinary people can actually earn a gainful living. And it can be as simple as even just, like in some places, like in Elgeyo Marakwet County, you have to go to Wasingishu for you to get fertilizer. Just decentralizing fertilizer into every single ward just immediately makes it possible, because fertilizer is 3,500 in Eldoret, but by the time it gets to the farmer, it's actually 3,000, 4,000, because you have to transport it to those places. But even then, even if you just consider that this government will be 10 years, the amount of prosperity that can be created in the next 10 years, we should be optimistic about it. We should be optimistic about how this government can potentially use technology to increase service and
It's
digitize.
true, but how do we ensure that sustainability so that legacy does not become a problem? Remember what you said. Many of the county governments, new country administrators are coming and taking on legacy problems. These are not problems being viewed as problems by their predecessors. They are being viewed as opportunities by their predecessors. But then the new guy comes in and is like, all right, the way this thing was implemented, the hurry which it was implemented, the structures that were put in place, this is a problem, not an opportunity. How do we ensure that we have whatever is being started today becomes a legacy opportunity?
Yeah. No, I think the only thing to do, for people like you, Ndu and Muga, is to frame the real challenges of the country.
Absolutely.
Right now, the biggest challenge for our country is cost of living, is opportunities for young people, because we have more than 9 million young people that need gainful opportunity, and that is growing by 1 million every year. It's debt, okay, because a huge portion of our revenue, actually almost 60-70% of our revenue is now going to service debt. So if we can frame the opportunity, then every administration, at the backdrop of their manifesto, they will be focusing on the thing that matters. And I think I really like the situation room for that, because we are really saying what is important, what's the topical issue for the decade, what's the topical issue for not the decade, what's the topical issue for these 2 or 3 years. Because it's been perennial. If you look at the last 3-4 years, the challenge has just been cost of living, debt rising, contributed partly by many things, one of them corruption, but the other one is revenue not growing fast enough because the environment is bad for business. I think that if media and third estate frame the challenges for the country without necessarily taking sides, I think that's already a good step, because then everyone is coming and saying, okay, what's the solution? Because I really genuinely think right now all focus should be in export. Should be in export for things that the country can make productively, and should be in export of our human resources. And in the last conversation, I was telling you, right now as we speak, Canada needs a little over 1 million jobs. Right now as we speak, in this conference room.
Yeah,
but
vacancies.
in Kenya, we have 9 million young people that need jobs. We need to conclude the labor agreements with Canada. We need to task the Canadian embassy. Ambassador say, okay, last year Canada employed 400,000 young people out of India. Okay, 200,000 out of India, 50,000 out of Nigeria. We have a quota for 20,000. How can we maximize that 20,000, and how can we increase that to 100,000 so we can send young people to Canada? But also, what else can we do more? Can we engage Canadian entrepreneurs? Because when you interview Canadian entrepreneurs today, they tell you the biggest challenge they have is labor force. You speak to Korea, they tell you the biggest challenge is labor force. You speak to Germany, the biggest problem they are having right now is they don't have labor content. They don't have labor. But then on this other side of the continent, we have excess talent. We have, of the 20 jobs interviewed for my county, 4 sub-counties, teachers, 3,000 people applied.
4 jobs?
No, 20. Because 4 jobs against 600,
and then now
20, more than 3,000. So the real opportunity we have right now as a country is how can we reorganize government? How can we reorganize government today to make sure every single department is a servant that it's almost like a client manager, client service or someone like that, where you are overseeing growth for entrepreneurs, because that, remember, 60 to 70% of all jobs always come from local service jobs, so private sector. 140 million American jobs, 112 of them is in private sector. So we really do need private sector to succeed. We need to worry about cost of power in the country, because cost of power cannot be 2 times the cost of power in America, because it would never otherwise be competitive. It cannot be 5 times the cost of power in China. We need to worry, what is it that we can actually really humanly do to make sure that we are exporting something out of Kenya, whether it's in goods, it's in produce, in everything, and we are exporting human talent out of the country. Because if we could do that as a country, we immediately can get foreign foreign remittances. We can get foreign dollars. We can get money in dollars,
Forex.
which allows us to cover our debt obligations.
Yeah.
We can expand opportunities for young people. We can get more income. We can get income for our farmers, because if we have pyrethrum in Elgeyo Marakwet County and they're harvesting it month on month, we now need a pyrethrum factory. Okay, we have a pyrethrum factory that is generating jobs. That's more income for our people. If the whole of government can be reorganized, and I think the president has that in mind, and we have legislative support for the president, and we have all funding going into those places. I genuinely think that the next decade will be better for Aslas.
Tim, how do we change the conversation? I'll explain to you why I'm asking that question. Because if you look at the Kibaki government and the Uruto government, the thing that they focused on was infrastructure, big projects, roads, what have you. We have roads, not everywhere, but we have more roads than we've ever had. The foundation on which we build what you are saying,
It's already done, yeah?
it's been done. We need to mop up a few things, finish one or two projects, but that has been done. Now, the continuity of government is something we don't usually see. That the success of one government is often dependent on the previous government and what they did. People talk about labor export, forgetting that actually that is a President Daniel Arap Moi legacy. Because it is Moi who expanded learning in this school, in this country, and took higher learning to a level it had never been in before. It is him.
And so our talent became competitive.
Yes, it's him. Then, of course, the nature of the government then encouraged people to leave the country because
So it opened opportunities.
it opened very, very vast opportunities. So inadvertently, again, credit goes to that particular leadership.
That's true.
But we don't talk about it. Now, I am saying, here we are now. And this conversation of the continuity, we have infrastructure, we have this, we have all these things. But you know, our conversation, if you listen to it, it's as though these things didn't happen.
So how do you change the conversation?
That's what we're doing right now. We actually changed that conversation. We're saying, we already have this, okay? The previous government have built this. Now, this government, the very things you're saying, they can do. This huge road network and all these things that needed to be done by previous government, they don't need to do.
Yes.
It's no longer necessary.
They don't need to focus on the last mile.
Yes, they need to focus. And the government that will come after this now needs to focus on taking us to the next level.
And I think that the president has seen that. So the bias is now just Aslas. How can we... So it's to look at the citizen in the country and say, my client is an Asla. How can I take care of their special interests? And that Asla might be 18 to 30 years old. So the best opportunity for them might be fiber. Get them fiber. People can learn to do media. They can export talent. They can actually do not even export. They can just export service. In other cases, the Asla is a farmer. Okay. What help? What intervention does the farmer need? Needs extension services. Needs fertilizer. Needs a bit of funding. Needs for us to secure markets out of the country. Yeah. Needs for us to do offtake. I think just that alone might open, because sometimes when we talk policy, we forget who we represent. Half the time, many people that do policy forget that there is a farmer. There is a lady in Elgeyo Marakwet County that harvested their potatoes last year, sold a whole bag for 300 shillings. So just took 2 plates of chips. And so she didn't even go back to harvest the potatoes because it would have cost more to go dig it out. Yeah, but then what can we do to prevent? How can we, I think the whole conversation is, how can we help Aslas meet some of their aspirations by reorganizing government to respond to the needs of Aslas.
Tim, thank you always for joining us. And come again soon. And let's continue now. We shift the conversations into the what's possible and what ought to be done. Tim KIPCHUMBA is an entrepreneur. He's a mentor. He's a politician. He's been our guest this hour. Thank you very much for joining us. Tomorrow we'll be back here at what time?
6 a.m.
to